the Phoenix Suns may have just well became another super team in the league going into next year. Now, going into this free agency period, the Phoenix Suns had huge questions, mainly due to the fact that they literally did not have a bench, okay? Going into free agency, their best bench player was Cameron Payne, aka Sid the Sloth, aka probably the ugliest NBA player to ever live, okay? That was your sixth man, and then you had other, okay guys, but not really. Their bench was non-existent, basically, especially when compared to all the other contending level teams' benches. They just could not compete in any way, shape, or form. And really, the only thing going for them was the fact that they had a very good elite big four in Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. Now, I mean, obviously, I don't need to really introduce you to any of them. Kevin Durant's the best anorexic kid to ever play in the NBA, one of the most unguardable players of all time. Devin Booker is the light-skinned Jesus of the league. He's probably the best shooting guard in the entire NBA right now. Every time there's a baddie on the court, he goes dumb. His light-skin powers are just different. And then you have Bradley Beal, who luckily got freed from the hell that is Washington, D.C., okay? Nobody wants to play for the Washington Wizards. Look at their fucking mascot. Who would want to play for that? Finally, Bradley Beal got freed, and he's one of the most underrated offensive guards in the entire league so far, as he did have back-to-back seasons in his career where he averaged 30-plus points per game. Now, yes, those Washington teams were very, very bad, but he has been shown to be extremely good on the offensive end for many years at this point, and is one of the more underrated guards, so hopefully he starts to get his flowers now that he's with the Phoenix Suns. And then as our fourth guy, you have DeAndre Ayton, who, although does get a lot of shit, rightfully so, because in the playoffs he just Thanos snaps and disappears, but during the regular season he is a very, very solid player, and in the playoffs for this to be your fourth best player is very impressive, as last year he did average 18 and 10, so he does put up very solid numbers, and probably is a top 10 center when he's actually playing like he should. Now, whether he will play like he should in the playoffs now that they have Bill or not, that's yet to be seen, but hopefully he can, and he is a top 10 center when he is playing at his fullest potential. And overall, with that being your fourth best player, that is an extremely good fourth man to have on your team. And like I said, that sounds very good. They have tons of star talent, probably some of the most star talent in the entire league on one team. The problem is that after that, before free agency especially, it just fell off a cliff. Before free agency, their starting small forward was going to be Josh Okogie, and honestly, it might still be Josh Okogie, because he is a solid defender, but he is a horrible offensive player, and is just he's an Andre Roberson, basically, put it that way. They have an Andre Roberson as their starting small forward, which is not the best to have in the modern NBA as your fifth guy on your starting lineup, and then it just progressively got worse as you went down the bench. It went Cameron Payne, Torrey Craig, Terrence Ross, it just kept getting worse and worse, and with them starting free agency, losing Jock Landale, it did not look like things were going to go that well for them, but luckily for them, they were able to completely turn it around, as like I said, they went from having Okogie and Payne being their only two real players off the bench, to now having Drew Eubanks, who's a very underrated big man. Not a lot of people talked about it when they signed him, but Drew Eubanks is actually extremely, extremely solid, and when Portland was awful, when Damian Lillard got injured a few years ago, he was one of their kind of nice bright spots, as he in 2021 averaged 14.5 points per game, 1 assist per game, 8.5 rebounds per game on 68% shooting from the field. So he's not putting up record-breaking numbers or anything like that, obviously. But for Drew Eubanks to be putting up those numbers, very, very impressive. Now, yes, he did fall off a little bit, or he just got less minutes when Damian Lillard came back, but still, he looked very, very solid. And Eubanks is one of the more underrated rotational bigs in the NBA, and I think they got a very nice pickup to replace Jock Landale going forward. And then they were also adding Yuta Wannabe, not Wannabe, I know it's Watanabe or whatever, but we're going to be calling him Wannabe from now on in this video. But Yuta is also another extremely underrated player. Now, although not the biggest name, obviously, probably a lot of people don't even know who he is, but he is a absolute sniper from the three-point line, as he shot last year 44% from the three and 56% from the field, all while being a 6'9" wing, okay? He is extremely, extremely solid. Now, last year, he did only average 5.6 points per game and 2.4 rebounds per game, but he's still a very, very solid player, has tons of versatility, and is just going to be a solid floor spacer when you have guys in the game, which is going to be extremely, extremely important, and he might even start starting at the small forward position, determining how training camp and things like that goes, and I just think he is another very underrated pickup that the Phoenix Suns were able to make. And then to keep the trend going of signing good-sized wings, they went and signed Case Bates-Diop from the San Antonio Spurs, and Diop is an extremely, extremely solid player who just had the best year of his career with the Spurs, where he averaged 9.7 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 40% from 3, three and 57% from the field. So he is an extremely efficient, extremely solid player who can shoot threes, especially the corner three, at a very high level. And that means they've added two 6'8 plus wings that can both shoot and spread the floor at a very high level, while also being big enough to guard almost any position on the court. And then on top of that, like I said, they got Drew Eubanks, who's a very solid big. They also added Me Too from the Kings, who had a few nice little stints with them. I don't think he's going to be too big of a contributor to the team, but he's a nice depth piece. They re-signed Damian Lee. I think they still have Torrey Craig on the roster as well. So overall, I think this team is going to be very solid when it comes to the bench. Now, am I saying they're going to have the best bench in the league? Absolutely not. Far from it. But they're going to at least have solid role players who, if they can stay healthy, they should have enough bodies and enough guys to throw at to keep their stars rested enough by the time it comes playoff time to try to make a legit finals push. Now, am I saying the Suns are going to be the best team in the league? No. Am I saying I think they are? No, but I think that they do have a chance to legitimately contend for a finals now that they at least have somewhat of a bench and some real role players they can actually fall back and rely on, opposed to what they had last year, which was basically nothing, and were just relying on the star talent that they had on the roster. And then on top of all of that, they were also able to add Eric Gordon. Now, Eric Gordon is nowhere near what he used to be, don't get me wrong. He's not the same guy he was in Houston, but he is still very, very solid and is going to be a great addition to this team, and also going to be a veteran presence who's been on many good teams and knows how to win games at a high level. So hopefully Eric Gordon can provide that, as well as being a solid basketball player who can still get his bucket every now and then, and at worst he could be a kind of floor spacer, but at least they're going to get another backup guard, which they were desperately needing, as Cameron Payne was really their only usable backup guard. Yes, they had Damian Lee, but I don't think he's that great, and I think Eric Gordon is going to be a huge addition to this team and the bench overall, and it just makes them a much stronger team than they were before they signed him this free agency. And still, with a few days left of free agency, they could make a few more signings as well, but I'm sure their money has pretty much ran out at this point. I'm not 100% sure, but I would just imagine they don't have that much money left when it comes to the Big Four's contracts, and then the contracts they've already given out, plus the other guys they already have on the roster. They might even be out of roster spots. I'm not 100% sure, but if they do make some more signings, that would just help their bench grow even more going forward. And I just think overall, the Suns are going to be a very scary team going forward, and they're legitimate finals contenders going forward now that they were able to add a bench. But unfortunately, guys, that's what for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think that the Suns made great moves? Do you think they're scary? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And second point, like button, subscribe button, mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. Could I have a blessed day? So you can have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.